Excuse me, I can't believe I sneezed right when we went live. That's awesome. Hey, so what's up, TFWR? I'm here live with Sips, as we affectionately call him. I learned that when I met him on the last call. And he's here for our wonderful Ask the Ref session. I know there's not much wrestling going on right now, so there's no parents or coaches out there that are ready to complain about a call. However, we do know that there has been some changes and updates on the 2021 high school wrestling rules. So we have the weigh-in procedures and hair length changes and restrictions. So we'll go through that with him and we'll kind of ask him his opinion on that. I want to kind of see if I can, let me see here. I might be able to, let's see, close, open. Let's try something here, because I think in the future we're going to, not I think, I know that in the future, TFWR, we will start bringing some matches on and having him break them down. I'm sure we'll have other refs come on with him. We'll have coaches come on with him who want to ask him about certain matches. All in good taste. Nobody's allowed to come on and curse him out or anything. So, but if you have matches or anything that you want him to break down for you, feel free to get it to us, and I'll share my screen with him and we can put it up live and ask his opinion on calls or what he would make. By no means can he put the milk back in the glass. Once it's spilt, it's out, but at least he can help us understand the calls a little bit better and understand why the call was made or why it wasn't made, if that makes sense. But with that being said, hey, what's up, Sips? How you doing, man? Another week.
Good.
Another week. Any word on Disney World yet?
No, unfortunately, they still haven't made any official announcements. But I think it's all part of the phased processes, right? We're starting phase 1 on May 4th. And from reading the guidelines, you have to be in each one of those phases for 2 weeks without a significant spike in cases as it relates to COVID-19. So with that being said, I think we'll probably be roughly 6 weeks out from the 4th of making some sort of movement of just reopening the state in general. And as that relates to Walt Disney World too. But again, no official announcement.
All right, well, hopefully we get you and your family and all those Disney members back to work. Hey, so I'm going to attempt to share my screen here and see how this works. And well, this is where we are. That's my screen. Let's share this one. Or no, we can share this one. Let's see, share. Let's let Ricky in. All right, do you see my screen?
Yeah, no, I see it. Mm-hmm.
All right, and here are the new rule changes right here that have been put into effect. Let's see if I can scroll.
Yeah.
I can scroll up and down. Let's see if it's okay. Yeah, there we go. Let's see if I can bring this up over here. So this is good because as we get further along, we'll be able to do this more often. I don't know how to make this bigger, so sorry everybody in the wrestling room, but so we got that stuff done. All right, so we got Ricky in now, right? Hey, Ricky, what's up, man?
Hey guys, what's happening?
Can you see us all right?
Hey.
I can see you guys.
All right, and I don't know.
All right.
I don't know what all this means. There's that. There's that. There's that. Okay. All right, so I'm practicing here, Ricky, because we're going to start in the future. We'll share the screen with Sips here and have him break down some stuff. But if you guys can't see these guys, let me know because I've never done this before.
I can see your home screen, and then I see the rules change with the 2 wrestlers on the front.
Okay, and I'm guessing the video on live is just kind of switching between how we talk right now.
Yeah, it's over to the right side.
Okay, cool. So these are the rules changes for the 2021 high school wrestling rule changes with the weigh-in procedure and hair length. And as you know, the National Federation of State High School Association has made some adjustments, 11 rule changes, everything from Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was co-ed weigh-ins, but now singlets are allowed. I know. So the consensus is, Mike, that a lot of the rules, I think, benefit the sport. Some things that bothered people were like no weight exception for the singlet. What's your opinion on now having boys and girls together in the same room, boys and girl refs in the same room, and no exception right now on the weight?
Yeah, we're still waiting on interpretations, right? Just because the rules came out doesn't necessarily mean that we have interpretations, because we're gonna ask this committee a lot of questions too, right? So we don't have any formal interpretations yet. So once those come out, we'll be better prepared to answer questions in regards to the new rules, because we're going to have several too. Skin checks would obviously be different just based off of what we're reading, right? So if I'm close on weight, now am I allowed to take my singlet off? If that's not the case, then obviously coaches will have to make adjustments there to ensure their kids are on weight with the singlet on. So once I have a formal interpretation on that, I can give you guys better answers. But these just came out 2 days ago, and again, they haven't made any formal interpretations yet.
Okay, cool. Did you have a question on that, Ricky?
Yeah, just on the hair rule, Sip, what was the previous, and this is for me, but also for everybody out there that may not know, because the coaches know, but a lot of the parents and fans may not know. What was the hair rule prior, and now what is the new hair rule?
So the hair rule prior to last year, if your hair went below the brow, right, it had to be secured by that of a rubber band. Okay. That was the only approved item that was allowed to secure the hair, was a run-of-the-mill Office Max or Staples rubber band. In years prior to that, you had to actually wear an attached headgear, or hairnet that was attached to the physical headgear.
Right.
So you could it would prevent the hair from coming out. Now, based on this new rule, that's out the window. So you can have longer hair if you want. And let's be honest, I think a lot of this was fueled by that incident that happened in New Jersey, right?
Yep. I was going to ask about that. Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was in the works as a result of that. But now you can wear your hair however you want, as long as it's not abrasive, and it wouldn't be something that would potentially be used at an unfair advantage.
Okay.
So that was the old rule, and now you can grow it out if you want.
But who's to say what's abrasive and what's not abrasive? I think that kind of opens things up as well.
Yeah, I think like they approved cornrows last year, and and dreadlocks. I think it would still go with the same thing if a kid wanted to do that. But there's no greasy substances that are allowed in your hair, right? So if I'm loaded up with hair gel, obviously that's going to be a disadvantage for the other wrestler. If I go to keep grabbing you in a collar tie and my hand keeps slipping, or I can't even hold on to you, right? It's just like that in freestyle or Greco. So there's that. So that was I think that's the change there. And again, I think it was fueled by the New Jersey incident. So.
Gotcha. And do you like that rule or do you dislike that rule, the new one?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know. I kind of feel like if they were going to address that, then why didn't they address the shaven issue, right?
Yeah.
So now I have to be clean shaven, but I can have crazy long hair. To me, I think they should have addressed that too. In college, you don't have to shave now.
Right.
And more of the rules that seem to get introduced into high school wrestling stem from what's happening in college, right? It just prepares those kids better to go into the next level.
Sure.
So I think, like, to me, it's like, well, great, I'm clean shaven, but now I can have crazy long hair. I don't know. To me, I think they should have addressed that too.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion.
Now, one rule that I hear, or that I hear people saying that they're a fan of right now is the change to the technic. So what did it say on your fourth stall?
Yeah, so on your fourth stall, that would now automatically go to a restart. Whereas in the past, let's take this positioning for an example. If if I'm on the top position, but you're the bottom wrestler and you stand up, well, I have to make an attempt to return you to the mat. If I don't make an attempt to return you to the mat, I can be hit for stalling. But we're on our feet, so I wouldn't stop the match there. Okay? So we're on our feet. I'm not going to stop the match, and I'm going to not penalize the bottom wrestler for doing his job. I'm still going to let that action continue. Well, now in this situation, I would stop that, and it would give that person, the bottom wrestler, now choice of position and the 2 points. So there's like a positioning example to highlight that rule.
Yeah.
So before it was, and I think, and you'll hear this from older wrestlers. Everything all right, Ricky?
Yeah, I just have to step away just for like 10 seconds. My fire alarm needs a new battery and it keeps beeping, so I just got to reset it.
So in the past, and I think you've heard, wrestlers from the past say they were good at stalling. So this is, so a lot of times towards the end of the match, they would do a little bit of stalling just to kind of stall the time. Now that's not going to stop. People are still going to be able to do that as long as it's not their fourth occurrence.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that rule is not meant to prevent that from happening. It's just meant to give the person who was awarded the penalty points the opportunity for an immediate restart. So let's say I'm in the neutral position and now I've hit you for stalling for going out of bounds a few times, right? Well, if that second point stall now affords you the opportunity to choose a position. So if you're great on your feet, you're probably not going to change anything different. But if you're down by 1, now that you have the 2 points, now you're only down by 1, you might take bottom to get up and get out and now tie the match.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas
that whole stalling thing began at the beginning of last year, right? Where they changed the rule to where you can't, you can't carry somebody out of bounds, you need to make a move to where you're taking them to the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the past 2 years. The boundary penalties have become progressively more, again, towards that college level of wrestling and all about keeping the wrestling in bounds. So, so to answer your question, yes, that's when it started. And again, it removed it from the general chart. So referees could, it put it in its own penalty chart. So referees could be more aggressive with those calls.
Hey, Mike, has riding time ever been discussed for high school wrestling? And do you think it will ever come into high school wrestling? And if not, why?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's been discussed, and I'm not a fan of riding time because, again, I think you're riding. There's, in college, you're awarded points by just controlling a person for a minute, right? You just have to control them for a minute.
Yep.
But I think the level of wrestling in college is far different than that in high school.
Sure.
I think where sometimes I see guys riding in college, I would have whacked that guy on top for stalling because he's never off the hips. But it's just kind of that culture in college. So, I mean, my opinion, I'm not a fan of riding time. Okay. I hope it doesn't come to high school. But I mean, look, if it does, it does. But I think that's just another element that's probably going to be more difficult too, from a table worker stance to track.
Yeah.
Right. So now I've got 1 minute and 5, and now the other person gets choice and he takes top. So what if I'm not on top of that clock? Right.
Right.
And 2 seconds go by, then that guy still has the advantage. And now we're talking about matches being won or lost by a point. And would you want a volunteer or a high school, volunteer kid deciding that fate? And would you want to be put in that position too?
Yeah, no,
I think it's
a valid point.
I think that's where I sit with it. And there might be people that are fans of it, but like I said, I think it just throws an element where you as a referee, it's just one less thing you have control over.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask, and this is kind of getting off the whole rules thing, but wrestlers have their own role models. They have guys they look up to, like Cal Sanderson, Dan Gable, the young kids now looking up to Spencer Lee, Yanni Diakomahalis. As an official, do officials have role models that they look up to? Because like a guy like Rick Tucci, he's done 7 Olympic games or however many he's done. Is that the case with officials as well? Do you have guys that you want to get to where they were possibly be somewhat like them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, again, I don't think the wrestling community, fan base, or maybe coaches or athletes know how hypercritical we are of each other in terms of officials, and our mechanics and positioning and being in shape. That's a big part of it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
You as a coach, if the ref's not in good shape and they're always having to chase down these line calls, that's just going to raise your level of frustration, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a job that if you want to be good at, you have to take seriously. And for me, being in good physical condition is just one of the byproducts of you being a good official.
Agreed.
I think you'll see we've come a long way since the really overweight guys that just maybe did this as a hobby on the weekend. Those guys have kind of been weaned out, and you're going to see guys that are more in shape and their mechanics are crisp, and you understand that, as an official. So I would say, yes, to answer your question, we do. For me, in my local association, I look up to a guy that's younger than me, and Zach Catalina. I mean, he's done stuff on a national level that's incredible. He's refereed Beast of the East, Super 32 multiple times. I mean, he's just an incredible official, and I rarely see him get a call wrong and that's a guy I look up to in our state.
Yeah.
I would think guys I've gotten to work with on the national level, guys like George Dixon, who runs a Super 32. He's a great official. Ben Kiefer. These are guys that also do college. Steve Wirtz, who unfortunately doesn't do any more high school stuff, but he's from our area in Florida, and now he's selected to become a Big 12 official. So now all he has are Big 12 assignments. So those guys are the guys that we probably, or at least I reach out to and go, hey man, this is how I interpreted this call. Was I off base there? And then what should I have done? So there are guys like that. Kenny Ritchie, who's a great official too on the college level. A young guy like Ryan Hagan, who officiated that Datton Fix Nick Soriano match last year in the finals. He's a good guy that we look up to. Do I think he did a great job in that match? There were elements, but there were some things in that match where I was like, ooh, I don't know if I'd have made that call. But it's okay. I mean, we all have been in those moments, and we can talk to him about it and go, just tell me how you interpreted that.
So I got two things. So the first thing is the shoe thing must be a big issue for it to come up and be a rule change.
Well, I would say this. I think Shoegate started with Joey Silva.
Joey Silva versus Real Woods.
Yeah. He pulled that shoe off. That's when the two coaches almost fought, right?
Yeah, which was an incredible match.
That was Izzy and Palazzo.
Yeah, the problem was the official at the time, the way that high school rule stated was if the shoe is worn to the manufacturer's direction, which means you had to have each eyelet laced all the way. If it came off and it was tied perfectly, then there's no infraction. But the college rule with that is it was a stall at the time, which is why I think you saw that rule change last year, right? So if the shoe came off last year and the shoes weren't laced all the way, that was a technical violation, and it was 1 point for the opponent, and then you started injury time so that the wrestler could fix the shoe appropriately. So I think that's what happened. That rule change as a result of that match. Let's be honest about that. That's what happened.
My other question is, excuse me, sorry about that. My other question is, this is maybe got me thinking on the question when he asked you, do refs look up to certain people? It made me think, how do they choose the refs for these big national?
I was going to ask that.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah. Oh, is it like, like in the NFL or college, you're graded throughout the year and then you get the big tournament? Or
I was going to ask.
I didn't know you had that question.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do they determine who referees or officiates the state tournament and who does the finals matches?
Yeah, I think what happens there is each association fills out evaluations, right? And what we do in my association is we have the head official of our state tournament, Bob Whitaker. He comes, who's done incredible things in both high school and college wrestling as an official, and was a big mentor for me. in my career as an official. I thought I was doing well, and he pretty much broke down everything I was doing wrong, and he really built me back up. So I have to give Bob a lot of credit for that. And Bob goes around to our bigger tournaments, like the Knockout and some of these other just incredible events across Florida, and he'll evaluate us. And our association uses that outside source to help rank our guys. That way you get out of the inner office politics of associations of, well, this guy's going to get it because he's done it X amount of years versus skill level. We base our evaluations on skill level versus seniority, right? Because these kids work their asses off to get to the state tournament, and the officials should get there based on ability, not on seniority. That's my opinion, and I think that's the opinion of a lot of associations. I think the good old boy system that used to exist in yesteryears has kind of gone by the wayside, and a lot of associations are going towards that. Now for finals, we just, there's a committee. Once the state tournament is over and essentially we go to the finals, there's a committee that selects groups of officials to stay within a certain A category. And what I mean by that is, like, I had the 3A category this year. So my group of, I think it was 9 officials, we were chosen to do certain specific matches or built the rotation, and that's how the rotation ended up. There was a group for 1A and a group for 2A, and last year I was in 2A and this year I'm in 3A. So it was just, that's pretty much how it's done. And yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question? Is there more questions I didn't answer within that?
No.
For the national tournaments, it's really done based on people knowing who you are and your ability. The Super 32, they're not going to get a first-year referee ever getting into that. If George doesn't know who you are and what your capabilities are, you're probably not going to that tournament. But there are tournaments like Virginia National Duels where they will accept officials, maybe not that haven't done it for 1 year, but maybe in that 3 to 5 year range. And because you have opportunities to get better at that tournament without making a call that's going to cost somebody a potential scholarship because of the national elementary divisions and national middle school divisions. And it's great exposure.
I just received a text message, and you can decline to answer this if you feel that it's nobody's business. I was asked, how much do these officials make, and is it different for the state tournament and national tournaments?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm happy to answer that, and all of that information's in the gray book, so there's nothing that's going to be hidden that we're hiding from the general public. Basically, as it related last year, we made, if it was an IBT, you make $5 a match.
Okay.
Or $175 for the day, and whatever amount is greater. Okay. For dual meets, it's $60 a duel. So that's pretty much the breakdown.
So you're definitely doing it for the love, not for the money.
None of us are full-time officials,
right? Exactly.
I mean, it's not like we're NBA officials or NFL officials where we make enough in the 4 months that we work that we can just hang out, right?
Right.
We're doing it for the love of the sport. And believe me, we may not sacrifice as much time as coaches away from our families, but you got to think every weekend and multiple times during the week, there's dual meets.
Sure.
And these tournaments are not 2-hour tournaments on the weekends. They're 12-hour, 15-hour events.
Right.
And that's Friday and Saturday. So that's a lot of time we sacrifice from our families too. But don't get me wrong, no officials are going out and buying Maseratis based off of what we make officiating.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the state tournament's no different. You get paid the same rate for the state tournament.
Yeah. Another text message I got was on injury time. So if a guy is on his back or going to his back, and it's clear that he's on his way to his back, and he hits the twirly bird, what's the rule behind that?
So the rule as it related to last year, and it was the rule for a long time, if imminent scoring was about to happen, you would award those points and start injury time. So let's say I'm just starting to turn you in a half, right? But you're on bottom and you do this number. Well, me as a referee, I would stop the match, award 2 near fall, and start injury time.
Okay.
So that was imminent scoring was about to happen.
Do you see that is being abused by the kids? Do you see certain areas of the state that do it more so than others? Because you hear stuff all the time. Oh, this school does it. This coach teaches this. I can't imagine a coach teaching kids to twirly bird, but you hear these things. I mean, it's out there. You hear these things. I'm sure you've heard it, and it's out there.
It's out there for sure.
Do you see that happening much or not really?
I don't see it happen probably as much as I will say I see it happen more because a kid's tired and wants a break rather than he's injured. All right. So I'll say that I am, there's a match in my head that happened and it was in, I think 195. I don't know. I forget which division this year at the state tournament. The kid was just beat. He wasn't beat like he had an injury. He was just beat, dead dog tired. So I would think there was like maybe a minute left and he just wanted a break. So he did this instead of like just suffering through it like you should. I mean, it's not the other kid's fault you're not in shape. So, I mean, that's a frustration for me as an official and as a former wrestler. Like I would have been so mad at that kid, right? But unfortunately, there's really no rule that there's no points I can give based off of that. Now, if a coach sees it happening, I've seen several really prominent coaches throw in the towel for their kid because that's not ethical to do. I mean, I remember vividly seeing that happen with Clay. Jim Reap was the head coach at the time, and one of his kids did it. He threw the towel in, and he's like, "We don't do that. That's not how we roll." So, I mean. And kudos to that coach, because to me, in my eyes, that's the right thing to do.
You gotta love that.
It's not the other kid's fault you're not in shape. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I saw one match at the state tournament. It was 220. It was a 220 match. It was 1A. And it was a match. So not the sixth place match. I think it was the first match in the consolation. And they were going at it, and the kid kid was losing, kind of grabbed his arm and then sat there and then got the injury timeout and pretended his nose, he did the whole thing. And then all of a sudden he was all refreshed and came back and won the match. And I could see the other kid like, just, man, that sucks.
Yeah. And, in those situations, I mean, unfortunately, as an official, there's not much I can do. Because what if I can't prevent the kid from calling injury time, and I can't, and if I don't stop it and something does happen to that kid, I'm liable then, right? So
now, what was the adjustment? There was an adjustment to that rule just now, wasn't there?
Well, see, that's the iffy part, and that's where I'm talking about. We don't have an official interpretation yet.
Right.
Because to me, the way that rule reads is pretty similar to the way the old rule reads. Because it's just taken away the word imminent. So that's where we need more clarification, right? Because if I'm just simply running an arm bar and I've just sat out, but you're nowhere near turning yet, and you throw up the whirly bird, I wouldn't give you any points as the rule stated last year. Now, as it states this year, that's open for interpretation. So we need clarification there.
Right.
So going back a little bit to the referees having to be, in shape and being able to move around. And, if a kid puts another kid on his back, you got to be down there to call that fall, or at least, see if it's a fall. Are there any rules in place right now or prerequisites that make an official be in shape? Like I've seen some pretty robust refs in the past, like 400-pound referees, man, that just couldn't get down on the mat. I've seen officials call falls standing up, slapping their foot on the mat. Absolutely ridiculous. So is there anything in place? Yeah, it is. I actually saw that. It was in Florida. Is there anything in place for that, or do you just guys kind of police each other and say, "Hey, man, you're getting a little chunky. You might want to do something"?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think people understand how brutal we are to one another. We would just harass you to no end, basically, as it goes. So,
I love it.
And it's all done with, it's not that we don't love that person or love them, but but it's just like, dude, you're not getting to the line fast enough, or you're out of position and you're costing these kids points. Because again, there was a time a few years ago where, wrestling was on its deathbed at the Olympics, so you have to, in order to make it more exciting, you have to be able to score points when they're there. So you being out of shape and not being able to get there cannot be the excuse. And it's just not fair to those kids.
Yep, absolutely. No, I agree.
But to your point, we're pretty brutal to each other, man. It's like, not over just weight, but like, dude, you're going bald in the back. Why aren't you shaving your head? You look terrible. It's stuff like that. It's never ending. We're terrible to each other in lots of ways, and just fun. But yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
How many new officials come on the scene every year?
That's the thing too, man. We need new officials. We need more guys and gals out there and doing it. It's this year, my association, we cover a huge section of Florida. We're mid-Florida. We have like 5 counties we cover. It's crazy. I think also too, what makes it difficult is we could help each other out in terms of associations and coverage, but we all of our schools want to hold events on the same exact weekend.
Yeah.
Well, that really thins the herd on what we're able to send where and who we're able to send where. But we need officials, and the younger guys ask us about it a lot, and we always encourage them to come out too. We have 2 really young guys in our association that have already done national level events just because of the exposure we've given them and the love they've shown for the sport, and really the abilities that they have and things that we've been able to work with them and correct. But
there's the NFHS right now is offering the referee class for free during the quarantine.
Yeah. And I would say the class is great. Don't get me wrong, but until you get out there on the mat and what's happening out there, it's a different ball game.
No, I'm just saying that because you said we need reps,
no, we do.
That would be a good start, right?
Yeah, we need more for sure. Yeah.
So for those that want to, or maybe watching this podcast that, are kind of on the fence whether they want to do it or not, what is exactly the process that they have to go through to become an FHSAA referee? What do they have to do?
All you have to do is go to fhsaa.org and then click on one of the drop downs. It says become an official. And then once you click on that, based on your area, it'll ask you to select a primary association. So then you select that association. You'll pay it's like a $27 fee to join. Yep. Then your email address will be sent to that association. They'll invite you to the meetings, get you involved in some training, go through potential scoring situations and how you should officiate those through training meetings. And then you take your test before the start of the season. And based on where you score, it will tell us your knowledge base, and it tells the state your knowledge base. And based off of that, we'll probably start you in JV matches just to get you some mat time and some exposure. And quite honestly, some of those JV matches are a lot harder than varsity matches based on the penalties that you're scoring, and getting you familiar with different positions. And then as you get better, you'll graduate up the chain there and put yourself into better matches and better tournaments.
So there's no actual class it's not like a 6-week training class or a 3-week training class?
No, because there's really no classwork that's going to prepare you for what you're going to encounter as a referee. It's the mat stuff. You have to be exposed to what kids are hitting nowadays in terms of moves and scoring positions, and you're not going to get that from sitting in a classroom. You're going to get that from being on the mat.
Yep.
Hey, so Jay Dugmore just asked if a coach that you have had issues with in the past decides to become a ref, is that an issue, or does it make things very odd?
No, I think it helps quite honestly, because I think, coaches go away sometimes and then go, again, this goes back to my original podcast with Brant, is as coaches, you're not as aware or invested in the rules as maybe you should be. And it really helps when you put on the whistle and you see it from the perspective of an official. So I think it will help, quite honestly, and it might repair that relationship, because that coach might have been harboring a lot of bad feelings towards that official when that official was right. But they didn't know that because, again, they weren't well invested in the rules. They didn't just know the nitty gritty stuff. We have two former coaches in our association this year with Rick Tribbett and Perry Belassis. And, you know, they all the time go, man, I thought I knew what I was doing. But, man, I'm telling you, it's a different ballgame, and it's a lot harder than people
I told
think.
you, Daniel's coach has been a ref in wrestling since like 1972.
Yeah, David's a
Rose.
great, yeah. And there's even some situations as fellow officials, we still go, you know, we're asking each other questions. I mean, it's a never ending learning process. And to Jay Dugmore's point, I mean, again, I think it would only help. I don't think it would hurt anything.
He said, great answer. Thank you. And yeah, and I think there's a respect factor there, because the way I see Coach Rose talk to a ref when he has an issue or bring up an issue to the ref is different than I see a coach that isn't a ref talk to a ref, if that makes sense. Like I see where Rose puts his hand out and calls the ref over and says, hey, this is what I saw. Whereas opposed to like, hey, you asshole.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, if you Bobby Knight it and throw a chair at me and want me to come talk to you, you're not going to get my most patient ear at the table. I can tell you that right now. But if you're calm, cool, and collected, and you can just gather your thoughts, I know there's a lot of passion and emotion invested into whatever that situation may be. We can talk it out. But I mean, if you come at me from 0 to 100 in no time, it's not going to go well for you.
I have a question for you, Sip. Are there, you know, obviously we have some very animated coaches in this state. We have some very, very highly looked upon coaches in this state. We have coaches that have been named National Coach of the Year. We have great coaches. Are there any coaches that maybe some of the officials, you included, maybe intimidated to officiate their dual meet or one of their guys just because of who that referee is? Do you ref the match differently because of who that is?
Because of who the coach is.
Because of who the coach is. Do you maybe you try not to ref it differently, but you find yourself maybe you are refereeing it differently? Answer that question, because I think a lot of people are really curious about that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I would say when I first started out officiating, I was probably intimidated by some coaches and you know, and you just didn't want to screw up, right? Because you knew who those coaches were and all of their accomplishments. But I think as you become more secure in your ability as an official, that wanes away. You know, and now at this stage of my career, I love it when like I have Balmaceda and Palazzo in the corners, you know. But I could tell when a first brand new official's out there, I could see them being really intimidated by guys like that. And maybe making bad calls. But I also think coaches know who the officials are and what they can and can't get away with.
Right.
Yeah. So I think, you know, if I'm on the mat, you know, they're like, all right, well, I'm not going to go out of control here because, you know, it's not going to work well for me. And he doesn't respond to those tactics. But there are some officials that get that can get bullied into certain things. So, I mean, that's part of coaching though too, and that's part of officiating. You just have to learn how to figure that out.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of the younger officials maybe get talked into or bullied into making a certain call because the coach are like, come on, that was clearly this, that was clearly that, and they're so intimidated, they're like, all right, well, it's close, I'm giving it too. You know, do you see that happen at all?
Maybe, but not much. But where I see officials get intimidated is maybe not getting talked into calls at the table, but they get so nervous out on the mat, and I kind of call it affectionately tight assitis, where they're just maybe so nervous in the match that they maybe do or don't make a call that they would have made if just somebody else was in the corner.
Okay.
But I don't see them going to the table a lot and getting talked into calls. But
I can't imagine how you guys feel, because I remember my little son plays tennis, and they asked me as a parent to go out and like judge a match between two teams.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I got parents yelling at me, that ball is out, that kid's not calling the ball, that's doing, and all of a sudden now I'm feeling inside me like, oh my God, if I make the wrong call here, I'm just gonna get
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question though too, Ricky, I think sometimes what happens is coaches will bring officials to the table and they won't get penalized just because maybe based on who they are, and they don't, the officials kind of intimidated in that situation where they should get penalized, right? If you go to question my call and it's a judgment or application and my call doesn't change, by rule, that's coach's misconduct. Again, it doesn't mean I don't love you. It just meant we're not doing this all day. And you know what's going to happen if you do come up here and talk a lot of nonsense. It's not going to work well. But I think you'll see a lot sometimes where maybe a guy that's intimidated will maybe just not hit those coaches for those things. By rule is what you should do.
Right.
Hey, Ricky.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're done with the question. Pat Ortiz just put up a question. I'm
done. I love Pat. Ask his question.
First, he said, by the way, good afternoon, fellas. So good afternoon to you, sir. He says, Mike, have you ever had a coach call you and tell you after watching the match at a later time that they were wrong, or vice versa? Will you talk to a coach and kind of explain that you got a call wrong?
That's a great question.
No, yeah, that's a great question. And yes to both. I've had a coach, apologize to me after and go, after watching the tape, hey, I screwed that up. A prime example of that would be this year at the knockout. Bretley Reyna, it was like a semi. I was officiating a semi, but he had these crazy weird tilts, right? Where he's got a claw and he's kind of going over the top of the shoulder.
Yep.
But to me, it wasn't in criteria. You still have to be at 45 in whichever way you're going to hit it. You have to be at 45. And there were two I didn't give. And the third one was really close. And I think I had like a 1.5 count, right? So, Balmaceda's in the corner and he's kind of unhappy with me at the time, but we both watched the match after and he goes, okay, I can see how you had both of those no call there. And so, he's like, so you're right there. But on that third one, I was like, yeah, third one, I might have been slow on the two there. You're right. It could have been two, but it was really close. And I'm not mad at myself for that call. And there are times even where I've screwed up and I've just gone, hey man, I might have called that fall way too fast. It's my bad. I'm sorry about that. But I think that's part of it is you have to be man enough to step up and say that.
He said he was watching a podcast with Coach Santoro that coach has come across that situation before.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I would have no problem if a coach said, hey, Mike, I want you to review that match, some other time, not now, whatever, because I know there's probably passion on either side of it. And I want you to give me your honest feedback on it. And I'd have no problem watching it. I wouldn't.
Have you officiated a lot of youth or mostly high school?
Mostly high school. I said on the last one, Ricky, it's just it's dealing with the parents at those youth matches that are just, it's not my favorite thing to deal with.
Well, that's why I asked I had a question towards that. And you may be able to answer it. Have either you or an official that you're friends with officiated a youth tournament to where the parent was whether it was a mother or father in the corner was just so abusive to the kid where you had to stop and say, hey, listen, you got to knock that off? Because I've been at many youth tournaments where I didn't even know the person. I came that close to walking over and choking the guy because of how he was treating his kid. I mean, I've seen a physical abuse.
Yeah, I think that, and look, I think, let's be honest, there are some parents that want to live vicariously through their children.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
So maybe their accomplishments didn't get them to where they wanted to be in whatever sport, but now they're going to make sure their children accomplish all of the things that they lacked. And I think, with wrestling, those younger years, there's no Cael Sanderson is not scouting your kid at 7 years old. I'd hate to break it to you, but that's just not happening.
You don't think so?
No, I'm pretty positive.
That's like Little League. I had that issue where I'm like, hey, they're 5. Nobody's here saying you're going to the Mets.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's I think what parents need to learn is that in those situations, their kids need to learn how to win and they need to learn how to lose.
Yeah.
And they need to not have so much invested in the result and maybe some investment in the lessons and positions they could have learned better outcomes from.
Absolutely.
But they go into competition mode and then they just want to yell at you as the official or the other parent in the corner who might be coaching their child. And yeah, I've seen some parents be pretty brutal to their kid. And I'm a pretty outspoken guy, so I have no problem going up to a parent and going, dude, what are you doing? That's crazy. You can talk to your kid like that. So, but I will say I've officiated the national elementary final in Virginia, and that wrestling was better than some of the wrestling you see at the varsity level in Florida. It was insane.
Yeah.
And
we have another one. We have another one, Ricky. They're starting to come in now.
Excellent.
Sorry, did you have something?
No, I love these questions. Go ahead.
All right.
I'm just trying to fill in the dead time.
Yeah, this is great, man. I'm glad we started this series. So we have this set up for the next 3 Fridays, and then we're going to see what happens after that. If wrestling hasn't opened up yet, we're still going to have him on Fridays if it opens up.
Beautiful.
And we're going to have to create a Saturday show just to talk about the matches from the week. But with that being said, Alexis De Armas, thank you for the question. Good afternoon. Something I experienced twice this year with 2 official matches. Went to the table to question a call and asked if we could consult the assisting official and was told no. We already spoke when they never did. Once at regionals and once at states, I was at a loss for words because they never even spoke to each other. Did I ask that question right?
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
So on matches where we have assistants, right? You can ask us to ask the assistant. If I'm the guy in the whistle, if I'm the main guy, you're more than welcome to ask me. There are things where I'm not going to ask the assistant, right? If you're going to ask me, hey, can you ask the assistant if he thought that was stalling? Well, that's not something we would ask the assistant, right? That's my judgment. And that's not going to be something we talk about. What we would talk about would be maybe positioning and scoring opportunities, where the feed in, all of that stuff. That is something I absolutely, or I might have scored 2, and then you come to the table about it, and I'll go ask my assistant. My assistant will be like, I didn't have it there. Now I still have 2 options as the guy on the whistle. I can say, well, I'm good with my call, or I can go, well, you might have had the better angle, so I'm going to go with waving it off. So just because I consult him and because he gives me a different outlook does not mean I have to go with it. I still have jurisdiction of the match. But to answer his question, look, I mean, we as officials, we can't be so like puffing our chest and so proud that we can't go talk to the other guy. And I think that comes with, years of doing it. And again, we can't get so emotional as an official to where we can't be objective and take a step back and just go do what the guy wants us to do. But I will say there, and I highlighted this in the podcast, if you're bringing me to the table every time, that's probably not going to work out well for you for every little call, unless I'm completely screwing it up, right? Which I'm not saying is impossible, but it is what it is.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
For Alexis, yeah, man, I'm sorry that we should be going to the other guy, but again, it doesn't mean it's going to change our call.
Yeah. By the way, thanks everybody. Pat, Jay, Alexis, appreciate all the questions. We're going to keep doing this. Here we go. Stalling is a judgment call. In my case, the official swiped 3 times, then gave no back or a takedown. If he swiped, he must have thought there was control, then gave no points.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's weird. I mean, if you're there long enough to get 3 swipes, sounds like a control situation. But again, I'd have to see it. I mean, and that's you're talking about one person's perspective, right? You would really have to see that on video to play that out.
Oh, imagine what this is going to be like when matches start. We're going to have parents.
Oh my God, I love it.
Oh yeah.
This guy said this person said that. It's going to be fun.
Sip's like, oh yeah, great.
Right. Great. Yeah. Great.
Wrestling family, keep it clean. But I can't wait to get some of that. And then Ricky, something I talked about with you and with him is obviously we will have the ability to get some people on. If a coach wants to come on and talk to Sips, he's more than welcome.
Yeah.
And then we may do during the week where we throw out a couple matches from the country or from the state or whatever, and have people pick the match they want him to break down. And then we'll bring that match on during these and have him break it down for us and kind of tell us what he sees. So have some fun with it.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah. It'll be good times.
Well, that's
So,
all. Really,
Dan,
questions? Do you have the like 10 things to ask him?
Yeah, we're going to hit him with the 10 questions. But before I do that, let's put it out there real quick. Most people know, but some people don't. I believe on May 5th, we have a pretty good guest coming on at 11 o'clock. Who's that going to be again?
Spencer Lee. I actually, I did throw that post out there with his, where he won the Sullivan and then he also won the Hodge. And thank you. Shout out to Coach Stripmatter. He hooked that up. He got me in touch with him.
Jody's a good guy. He's a very good guy.
In touch with him, and I was able to get a hold of him, and he like 1:30 in the morning, and he clicked in and he did it. So that was awesome. Jody's definitely been helping me get into contact with some good people, and he's got a great thing going there too. If you haven't seen the stuff he's sharing, he's doing his virtual coaching stuff out there at Young Guns. So. Check them out. And let's see. Hold on. There's more stuff coming in. We're not done yet.
Beautiful.
Sure. What we got?
I know officials are some of the biggest fans of this sport because the pay is not the greatest. But when have you preferred to be a fan instead of an official?
Oh man, I would say big matches when I haven't been an official are some of the most fun to watch. Like I've told this story before, but one time I was at the Disney duels and I was not officiating this particular duel, but I ended up officiating it. But that's a different story. I'll kind of paint the picture for you. It was Team Michigan versus Team Florida, and it was when like Central Florida and South Florida were combining a team, and we kind of made our all-star team.
Yes, that was an awesome duel.
Yeah, so I'm watching that match. I'm officiating the tournament, but I'm not officiating that match, so I can be a Florida fan at that point, right? And I'm watching it, and Jamal Morris is just destroying this kid from Michigan. It was like 9-1, but then the kid was done losing to Jamal and just started throwing punches. And then the two benches cleared like out of Braveheart. It was crazy, right? Yep. And then there's kids flying everywhere. Well, I wrestled with Dan Yates a long time ago when we were in Fargo together. He was the assistant coach of the Michigan team, and he asked me to officiate the rest of that duel. And I was like, you understand I'm from Florida. It's probably not a great idea. And he goes, we don't care. This guy can't do it. So I ended up having to officiate the rest of that duel. But I was a big fan. Well, I'm a big Florida fan watching those all-star matches. I'm definitely rooting for our guys. When I officiate, that's out the window. But those are fun things to get to watch and kind of root for our local guys and hope they do well. I mean, we almost won like 23-22 against PA 4 years ago.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, that we've put some pretty good teams together. I don't remember who we had on that was talking about it. Dan, maybe you remember. Who was it?
It was me. I was talking about it.
Was it you? No, the other day we had a podcast, and one of our guests, I forgot who it was, we were talking about that, and they were like, if Florida ever put like our absolute best guys pound for pound at each, like our best 106 that we have, our best one, we can hang with, I don't care who it is. Well, maybe not Young Guns, but other than them, you know.
But I mean, listen, I said this on the last time Dan and I were on the thing. If we could, and again, I don't know what the politics are with coaches letting kids go, but look, there were some Brandon kids wrestling with Brandon instead of on the Team Florida team. Like I think of Kyle and Kevin Nordstrom.
Thank you.
Had they been on that team, quite honestly, I think we might have won. People might think I'm crazy for saying that, but look, you put Kyle Nordstrom at 113 in that tournament, and you put Kevin at 138.
It was with Mako. Old
Mako.
Googs just chimed in. Thanks, Googs. Yeah. Also, Seth Condor wants to know, is it true you called lock hands on a kid that only had one arm?
That's not true. I called an illegal. Listen to this. This is a great story. It was an illegal headlock. It wasn't locked hands. The kid had like a little nub on this hand. It
Flipper.
was like a thumb and a finger. But then the kid went around the hand and touched here. And Mike Weems, the coach of Timber Creek, and Perry, they were coaches. They saw me about to do it, and they go, "Don't do it. Don't do it." I blew the whistle and was like, "Dude." They were like, "Oh my God."
That
was
could be
story.
the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Oh man, it was hysterical. It was hysterical.
All right, you better
Oh,
get
my
those
God.
10 questions in, or we're going to be on here all night.
I got him. All right, Sips, you
Pat
ready?
said, "Wow."
All right, we're gonna hit you with 10 questions in 10 seconds, one-word answers.
All right. Go
Folk
ahead.
style or freestyle?
Oh, folk style.
Headgear or no headgear?
No headgear.
Singlet or two-piece?
Singlet.
Saltwater or freshwater?
Oh man, I'm from Vero Beach. Saltwater.
Ice cream cake or birthday cake?
Ice cream.
Rap or country?
Ooh, country.
Car or pickup truck?
Oh, car.
Popeyes or Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A.
Saturday night or Sunday afternoon?
Saturday night.
Cozart or Palazzo?
Ooh man, that's tough. Oh man. Man, I would say Palazzo at this point. Yeah.
Man, I tell you what though, Cozart, what he's accomplished, man.
Oh, dude, ridiculous.
Has anybody in the country, other than like
in a public school,
exactly. That's what makes
By
it
the way,
so.
Palazzo would tell you that Cozart doesn't get the respect he deserves.
Absolutely.
Like I said, in a public school. And if anybody's ever been to Brandon, Florida, I mean, who wants to live in Brandon, Florida? No offense to anybody that lives there, but I'm just saying, to get the amount the kids that live there.
What a shithole. No offense.
Yeah.
No offense.
There is nothing there. Nothing.
But a mall.
Yeah.
There is a mall.
Yeah.
But seriously,
there is a mall. Yeah.
All joking aside, I mean, look what that guy's done, man. Seriously.
No, I have nothing but tremendous amount of respect for.
I think everybody
Russ.
does.
I mean, he's incredible what he's done for sure.
Yep, and he
right
definitely.
Now, there's obviously one man that's kind of doing it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I mean, look, 1A is very competitive too. I mean, because look, almost all of those schools are private too, so there's really no advantage. They're all private, really.
You used to hear all the time that 3A is the king. Not so much anymore. I mean, they're deeper.
Yeah, I
probably.
think this year was a down year for 3A. Look, 2A this year and last year, 2A was insane.
Oh, crazy!
I mean,
insane.
I did the state dual championships the past 3 years, and I've got to referee. I refereed Jesuit and Lake Gibson in the first round, which is insane. That should have never happened. And then I ref the 2A final last year between Charlotte and Lake Gibson. And let me tell you, those were some of the most exciting matches I've ever refereed. But yeah, 2A has come light years, and I think this year 3A was on a downward tilt, and 1A was real tough, I thought.
Yep.
Do you think we'll ever see, and before we jump off, do you think we'll ever see where, like this year, the Frankie Rivera match should have been the finals? Like, how do we avoid that happening?
Yeah,
the formula.
It's that formula, man.
Yep.
I was even talking to Robbie Lindemann at the state duels to prevent that Lake Gibson Jesuit thing. You got to seed it.
You have to have seeding. That's the only way to change it, is to have seeding. And other states do it.
You got to seed it. And I think for the dual state thing, you got to make those regions bigger, and you bring the top two from the regions. Because with no disrespect to the teams that were there, but especially in 3A, you can't tell me Southwest Miami should not have been at the state dual championship.
Exactly.
I mean, that's insane that they weren't even there. And some of those other teams, lost like 82-0.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I think they have to seed it. I wish Florida would go down to 2 divisions for the IBT and go to a 32-man bracket, and you seed it.
That's how it was when I was wrestling in school. It was 3A and 4A. That was it.
Yeah.
What's your opinion before we jump off? I've heard people say in Florida to get rid of districts and just go regional and state.
Yeah, I mean, I think the districts that have the 4 teams where everybody advances anyway doesn't make any sense to me. I think if you're going to have districts, you got to make them bigger to where it actually means something.
Right. You
Right?
gotta have at least
If I-
8 schools, at least.
Yeah, I mean, if I could lose 2 matches in my district and I still go to the next weekend, that's crazy to me. I mean, it just where's the competitive nature of wrestling for that?
Kind of makes me it kind of made me happy that my son was at 138, 140 this year, because there's always a full bracket in his weight. So I
Yeah.
was like, man, if you get through these brackets, you're working hard, because there's no matter where we went, there was always a full bracket. Sometimes I felt for him. I was like, oh, you get no breaks.
Well, what I love is like the knockout to me is the opportunity for the best in Florida to rise to the occasion,
Oh,
because
hell
it's
yeah.
blind. It's blind of division, right? And you get some of those killer teams from Georgia, like Woodward Academy and Camden. And those
Yep.
guys.
Collins Hill.
Collins Hill. What's the other one now? Too Woodland too. I mean,
Where
with
was
Adrian,
Ruffin? Where was Ruffin from?
Ruffin was from Union Grove.
Union Grove, right.
Union Grove.
Yep.
Which he was ridiculous. That kid had a gas tank like no other.
Him and Balmaceda had great matches.
Yeah, not even that. The semi the year before, or the year that Balmaceda and Ruffin wrestled in the final, the semi before was him and Artelona, and that went to the ultimate. I mean, that was
Unreal.
a phenomenal match. That was a great match.
Man, that tournament has had some serious marquee matchups, man.
It's to me, it's the second best tournament next to the Super 32 in the southeastern part of the United States.
That's what I think. What I think. It has to be. I mean, what other one is there?
There's not one that comes close.
Nope.
I mean, there really isn't.
Yeah,
And it gets better and better.
Pat just said Bird does a great job seeding the knockout. It's not an easy task.
Nope. That whole Osceola,
job.
I said this earlier when we had Locksmith on, that whole Osceola crew is just a bunch of fantastic people. They're just good people.
And listen, nobody in the state runs a better tournament than Osceola.
Right.
No one.
Right. Well, that's why they have
organized.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the most organized. He always has people coming back, returning wrestlers, parents kids who graduated years ago.
Yeah.
Come back to work his tournaments. I mean,
and it's the biggest facility, the biggest gymnasium in the state, I think.
Yeah.
The guy down at
eight mats in there.
The guy down at George Jenkins seems to do a pretty good job. He gets through everything pretty quickly. He gets the matches going.
Oh,
there's some great
there's some great guys. There's some great tournaments
to go to, and we're like, there's half the teams, and it takes 2 days. Then this one tournament that we went through.
Another one, the Chase Life with Blaine Eisen and the whole Palmetto Ridge family. That's a whole nother story. Those people are my favorite people in the world.
And Blaine is such a great young coach.
Oh,
man,
he's the
I think
best, man.
I don't think he gets enough accolades. I mean, he does a phenomenal job with those kids.
And the other two guys that don't get enough accolades is the Tampa Prep guys. Jake and Bricker. Come on, man.
Jake, dude. And think about the people they have to compete with.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Brandon. I mean, those guys. Yeah, and they always produce.
Yep.
High quality wrestlers.
Yep.
Man.
And then they run the Brawlers Club out there. They welcome anybody in who wants to. They're working with kind of just like Duck does with the Gladiators, you know?
Oh yeah.
There's
probably not a better youth coach in the country than Duck. I mean,
right.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Him and Kraus are the two best in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Him and Kraus.
Absolutely.
If those two guys ever got together to coach a youth team, oh my God.
Yeah.
So
it'd be insane.
All right, Sip, I got to get out of here, man. It was a pleasure to meet you. I actually never met you in person, but glad we met now. Next time I see you at a tournament, I'm definitely going to come up, shake your hand. Maybe we'll go have some lunch. I'll pick your brain a little bit. And
absolutely,
we'll have you on the show for the new segment that we're going to have for sure. But anytime you want to come on to discuss anything, get a hold of Dan. He runs it. It's his baby, but I love it, man. I'm glad I'm a part of it. I think
it's great for the sport.
It's
great for Florida wrestling, for sure.
Great for the members of the Florida Wrestling Room. It's just a great thing. I love it. So good to go. All right, guys, take care. I have to run, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
All right.
Thanks, Sid.
Thanks, Dan. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.